The circulatory system. Today we will be learning about some things about the circulatory system. First of all, what is the function of the circulatory system and what makes it so important for the body? And we will be learning about the heart, which is the crown jewel, as you can see. It's the biggest part of the circulatory system. And the blood vessels, they're important too, because if you had only a heart and no blood vessels, then you couldn't get blood anywhere. And we're going to learn about three very common diseases of the circulatory system. And we will do a quick review with a video from the Amoeba Sisters. We will start about the system. So the circulatory system, you can think of it as the trade network of the body. You guys know how our cells in oxygen and release carbon dioxide, right? Do you guys remember? Your cells take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide. Give me aggressive head nods if you know that. Okay, good. Thank you. So your cells are all over your body. How are they going to get that oxygen and how are they going to get that oxygen in and carbon dioxide out? The answer to that is the circulatory system. Some of you might be wondering why not the respiratory system, which is how you breathe, but your breathing is also tied into the circulatory system. As your cells respirate, they become oxygen depleted, which means no oxygen, and release carbon dioxide. And it is the job of this essential system to supply the body's cells with oxygen and carry away the carbon dioxide to your lungs, which is a part of the respiratory system. We will be learning a little bit about the heart. The heart can be called the king or the crown jewel of the circulatory system since it is so vitally important. The heart is also the control hub, which is, again, the king of the circulatory system. How many of you have been to an airport before? Give me a hand raise if you've been to a airport before. But anyways, have you guys ever seen that big tower in the airport?
Yes,
That's
it's
called
in
the
the
air control center. And what the heart does is similar to the air control center. It's pretty much the brain of the circulatory system, but only it can't think. Powerful convulsions of the cardiac muscle, which is aka also known as beating of the heart, helps the heart pump blood all around the body. The four chambers of the heart. The heart is divided into four chambers: the left atrium, right atrium, left ventricle, and right ventricle. The atria receive blood from the body, while the ventricles are the jumping off points for blood traveling away from the heart. The ventricles, the right ventricle and right atrium, they're colored blue. Why? Because they're receiving and they're pumping out oxygen poor blood, while the left ventricle and left atrium, they are receiving oxygen rich blood and pumping it out. The vena cava, or vena cava if you prefer, it delivers oxygen poor blood to the heart. So it's the biggest vein in the body. The aorta takes oxygen-rich blood away from the heart, and it is the central artery, which we will learn about in the next slide. Pulmonary veins and arteries are in charge of supplying the blood with oxygen. Okay, so we will learn about the blood vessels. The blood vessels are of mainly three types: arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. They usually carry oxygen-rich blood, which means the blood is it's usually redder and it's usually more filled to the brim with oxygen for your cells, with the exception of the pulmonary vein, pulmonary artery, which delivers oxygen poor blood to the lungs so that it can be charged up and taken back to the heart. Arteries are usually thicker and stronger than the capillaries and veins because they are what bring the blood away from the heart. So they need to be thicker and stronger so they don't burst easily. The most prominent artery is the aorta, and it's also the biggest. Veins. How many of you guys have had bruises before? So you've fallen and there's that big, ugly purple blotch on your knee or your arm. So some of you have gotten a bruise before. So bruises are basically caused when a vein bursts. So veins aren't as important as arteries. So veins are usually closer to the skin. So when you scrape your knee or whatever, the blood that usually flows out is oxygen depleted. They usually carry oxygen poor blood, but the pulmonary vein carries oxygen rich blood to the heart. The most prominent vein in the body is the vena cava, and since most of them are working against the force of gravity, many veins have valves to stop the backflow of blood. So think about it. Here's my heart. It needs to pump the blood through the arteries to my legs because my legs need to go run. While I'm running, the blood is pumping the oxygen rich blood down to my legs, and my legs are down underneath. But in order to get that blood back up to the heart, your veins have to pump against the force of gravity to get the blood back up to your heart. And that's why they have valves, which prevent the blood from flowing up and then down again. And the capillaries, last but not least. They are only one cell thick, and this is where oxygen and carbon dioxide handoff for cells takes place. Are there any questions? No questions at all? This is a lot of information. James.
I don't have a question, but sometimes your veins can like break and it doesn't blood, or like your skin doesn't bleed. That happened to my mom before and me.
Yeah, it happens very often, James. Thanks for commenting.
It happened once right over here for me,
Okay, yeah.
and it hurt. Well, not
Mm.
really, but it hurt though.
Yeah, that happens when veins burst, and that can be unfortunate, but just consider that lucky because if your arteries burst, then your cells might not get the oxygen that they need. So here are three of the most common diseases of the circulatory system. First of all, you've probably heard of this before. Heart attacks. Heart attacks are caused when heart tissue is damaged or when parts of the heart and arteries, which deliver oxygen to your cells, this is when they become clogged and your heart becomes damaged. A very weak heart attack usually just makes you feel pain in the chest, while a strong one can make you go screaming about your life and your chest and probably kill you within a matter of minutes. So, heart attacks can be prevented by watching your diet or just maintaining healthy exercise to get that clog away from your heart. Clogs are sometimes caused by high cholesterol. Remember how we talked about cholesterol? It's a type of fat. And cholesterol sometimes causes these clogs that cause heart attacks. Remember, cholesterol isn't a bad thing, just too much of it is. High blood pressure. Blood pressure is the force of blood being pushed into and around the arteries. When it gets too high, arteries can be damaged. High blood pressure is extremely common, actually, and it pushes the blood a little too much. It's when the heart pushes the blood a little too much against the arteries, and arteries can get severely damaged because of this, and this can even cause heart attacks. Leukemia. You guys also might have heard about this, not as common, but another word for leukemia is blood cancer. And what it does is it's rapidly growing white blood cells. And you guys might be thinking, well, William, isn't the rapid growth of white blood cells good for you because you need white blood cells to defend against germs? Well, yes, that's true, everyone. But the thing is, when there's too many white blood cells, these white blood cells need nutrients from your body, and that takes up nutrients for your platelets, which help you clot any place you got injured. So that's what forms scabs. The white blood cells, they take up too much nutrients, which means red blood cells, which carry oxygen, can't get enough of these nutrients. And white blood cells can be abnormally augmented their production, and that's really bad for you.